Have you ever noticed how many older adults develop less attractive habits without even realizing it? It happens so gradually that most don't recognize it until it starts hurting their relationships. In this video, we're revealing 9 subtle but damaging behaviors that tend to increase with age. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness, reflection, and making wiser choices. These habits don't always scream for attention. They're often masked as routine or excused with phrases like, "That's just how I am." But left unchallenged, they can quietly push people away, weaken your influence, and lead to a more disconnected life. At a time when connection should be your greatest asset? Watch to the end, because what you'll learn here might not only challenge how you see yourself, but also guide you to becoming more respected, more connected, and more at peace in your later years. You'll see how small shifts can lead to big changes in how others respond to you, and in how you feel about yourself. Let's get into it. One of the quietest ways age creeps into our personality is by turning our focus more toward what's wrong. It starts small, a few more grumbles about prices, the weather, or how things used to be. But over time, it shapes the tone of our presence. The tragedy is, most people don't see it happening. If your words lean more toward complaints than appreciation, people begin to link your presence with heaviness, not because you're mean, but because your emotional energy drains rather than uplifts. This habit doesn't usually stem from bitterness. Often it's rooted in loss, regret, or a feeling of being left behind. You might be grieving your past energy, clarity, or connections, and those feelings can sneak out as sarcasm, criticism, or constant commentary on what's wrong. But even if your emotions are valid, when your default expression is negativity, it pushes people away. Imagine being at a family gathering, and the first thing you say is how the food isn't the same or how noisy it is. The mood shifts instantly. People don't feel encouraged, they feel deflated. Do that often enough, and they'll begin to avoid those interactions just to protect their own peace. What makes this habit truly harmful isn't the intent, it's the effect. It sends a subtle signal that there's more to complain about than appreciate. And the more often you repeat that signal, the more it rewires your brain and reshapes your relationships. As we age, our minds become more reactive to repeated emotional states. Negativity, even small, starts looping, and that loop distorts everything. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The more time you spend dwelling on the bad, the less space there is for others to bring in the good. It's not about pretending life is perfect. It's about choosing gratitude, warmth, and a little lightness, because those choices don't fade with age. They become more powerful than ever, interrupting or controlling conversations unintentionally. With age comes wisdom, and along with it, stories, experience, and advice. That's valuable, but it can spill over in ways that drown others out. One growing behavior in older adults is the tendency to interrupt, not from rudeness, but from excitement, familiarity, or the assumption that our version is more helpful. But when that becomes a pattern, it doesn't come off as insightful. It feels dismissive. People begin to feel unheard or even corrected. That creates emotional distance, especially with younger people still trying to find their voice. It usually comes from a good place. You hear something familiar, and without meaning to, you jump in. I've been through that too, and suddenly the focus shifts to your story. What felt like a connection now feels like an interruption. Or imagine your adult children discussing parenting choices, and you cut in with unsolicited advice. Even if you're right, they may not hear the message because of the delivery. Speaking before they finish can feel like judgment. The key isn't silence, it's timing. Learn to pause, let others finish. A short pause can completely change the feel of a conversation. It shows respect. It tells others you're here to listen, not just to speak. Ironically, when you let others talk freely, they're more likely to invite your thoughts, not resist them. Conversations shouldn't be power struggles. They're opportunities for connection and mutual respect. Give others the full space to speak, and you give them something more valuable than advice, the feeling of being truly seen. If you're still here and finding this helpful, comment number 2. below to let me know you're engaged. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Tap that bell so you never miss a video. Your support fuels our work and helps us share more insight with you, delivering hard truths without caring how they land. There's a belief that getting older gives us a free pass to speak our minds however we choose. And while age should come with confidence and freedom, it can also come with blind spots, especially when we confuse bluntness with honesty, speaking truth without care for timing or tone. As we get older, some begin to believe they've earned the right to speak their minds however they please. But there's a difference between honesty and bluntness. The habit of delivering hard truths without thought for when or how can come across as cold even when it isn't meant to be. You might think you're being helpful, offering insight, or simply telling it like it is. But to the person on the receiving end, those comments can feel harsh or dismissive, especially when they're about sensitive topics like weight, personal choices, appearance, or relationships. Over time, this habit can build distance, even with those closest to you. It often sounds like you've put on weight, or that's never going to work. You may not mean harm, but when truth is stripped of empathy, it loses its value and begins to sound like criticism. Somewhere along the way, many older adults convince themselves that the younger generation is just too sensitive. But if people are regularly reacting negatively to your words, maybe it's not the message, it's the delivery. Timing, tone, and intention all matter. Compassion gives truth its power. Think about the people in your life you admire most. Chances are, their words stayed with you not because they were blunt, but because they were spoken with grace. True strength lies not just in saying what's true, but in choosing how and when to say it. It's not about silence, it's about intention. Because at the end of the day, people may forget what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And that feeling will shape whether they draw closer or pull away, becoming more judgmental of others' lives. With each passing year, it can become surprisingly easy to fall into quiet judgment. You see people living in ways you wouldn't choose, how they dress, who they marry, what they believe, and that voice in your head begins to whisper, "That's wrong." But that judgment doesn't usually come from a bad place. Often, it's rooted in deeply held values that helped you endure, raise families, and build the life you're proud of. Still, the world changes, and when we treat anything unfamiliar as inferior, we risk becoming emotionally rigid, difficult to talk to, and less approachable. You might hear yourself saying things like, "In my day, we never did that," or "They just don't get it." Those phrases may feel true to you, but to others they sound like walls going up. One example, a man in his 60s told his vegetarian daughter, "That's ridiculous. You need meat." He didn't mean to hurt her, but she felt dismissed. Instead of bonding, they drifted further apart. It wasn't his opinion that caused the rift. It was the refusal to make space for hers. The truth is, people aren't puzzles to fix. They're human beings to understand. Judgment closes the door, curiosity opens it. You don't have to agree with every choice others make, but asking, "Why do they see it that way?" can invite connection instead of conflict. If we lead with understanding instead of assumption, we grow closer to the people we love. Judgment shrinks your world, curiosity expands it, and at this stage of life, the last thing you need is more walls. If you're still watching and this resonates, drop a comment with number 4 below to show you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. Your support helps us bring more content that matters. Refusing help even when it's needed. One of the most quietly damaging habits that creeps in with age is the refusal to accept help. It often starts small. You wave off someone trying to carry groceries, fix something, or offer a ride. It feels noble, independent, but over time, that resistance builds a wall that keeps people out. We've been taught that strength means doing everything on our own, that needing help is weakness, but real strength in later life looks different. It's not in what you can still lift, it's in your ability to receive love, lean on others, and allow connection. When you push away help, what you might actually be saying is, I don't want to need you. Meanwhile, the people in your life are saying, I want to be there for you. Friends, children, neighbors, they're not offering support out of pity, they're offering it out of love. I once knew an older man named Harold. His wife had passed and his son would check in, offer to cook or run errands. But Harold always said, I'm fine. He wasn't, and what he didn't see was how helpless and distant his son started to feel. Refusing help didn't make Harold stronger. It made him lonelier. Letting others help isn't weakness. It's a gift. It shows trust, vulnerability, and it tells people they matter. Ironically, many older adults love helping others, but they forget how much younger people long to return the favor. Accepting help isn't giving up independence. It's deepening your relationships. And that, more than anything, brings true strength. When you accept help, you're not just receiving, you're giving. You're giving someone else the chance to show love through action. So the next time someone says, let me help you with that, try not to see it as a sign of weakness. See it as what it really is, a quiet moment of connection, a simple act of care. Aging gracefully doesn't mean doing everything on your own. It means knowing when to lean, and letting that leaning draw people closer instead of pushing them away. Talking more than listening in conversations. As the years pass and your life fills with stories, experience, and hard-won wisdom, it's easy to fall into the role of storyteller. You've lived through decades. There's so much to share. But sometimes, without meaning to, that abundance of experience turns into something else, dominating conversations. You talk more than you listen. It feels like connection at first, sharing what you know. But over time, people, especially the younger ones, can start to feel invisible, like their voices don't matter. It's not just about age. Even longtime friends or partners can feel the imbalance when one voice fills the room too often. Listening is more than just staying silent while someone else talks. It's a conscious act of respect, a way of saying, your world matters too. When you interrupt, finish someone's sentence, or redirect the topic back to yourself, it may come from enthusiasm or habit, but the message it sends is, my experience matters more than yours. Take Janice, for example. At 74, she had plenty of stories to share, but when her granddaughter opened up about a breakup, Janice kept steering the conversation toward how things were in her day. Her heart was in the right place, but what her granddaughter needed wasn't a story. It was presence, listening without rushing to respond, just being there. Your stories are important. They carry value, but so do the stories of others. Ask more, pause longer, watch body language. Are they engaged or pulling away? Because when you truly listen, something powerful happens. People feel safe, they open up, trust grows, and in that space, real connection happens, not just between two voices, but between two hearts. If you're still here and this resonates, drop number 6 in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and tap that button. Let's keep growing together, making negative generalizations about younger generations. It's one of the easiest habits to slip into as we age. Broad statements like kids these days are lazy, or they don't know how to respect anyone. You see someone glued to their phone or skipping small talk, and the judgment quietly forms. But here's the danger. Those generalizations don't just keep you from seeing others clearly. They slowly close you off from connection, from wonder, and from joy. And let's be honest, every generation has thought the next one was getting it wrong. It happened in the 50s, the 80s, and it's happening now. But younger people today are navigating a world very different from the one you grew up in. They may not send thank you cards, but they build online communities that support strangers. They might not stay in one job for decades, but many are juggling work, caregiving, and side projects all at once. If your words start with "back in my day," chances are they'll stop listening, not because they don't care, but because they feel judged before they're even understood. Take George, 79. He used to think his grandson was soft for going to therapy. In his day, you kept your pain quiet. But once George paused and really listened, he saw something different, courage, not weakness. And that understanding, it didn't just heal a stereotype, it brought them closer. They shared music, stories, even a road trip they never would have taken before. When you paint a whole generation with one brush, you miss out on individual people, their struggles, their brilliance, their dreams. Instead of assuming, ask. Instead of criticizing, invite conversation. Young people don't need your approval, but they crave your wisdom, and they're more likely to seek it if they feel respected, not ridiculed. Let them in. Their energy might just awaken something in you that's been quiet for too long. Interrupting or dismissing others in conversation. With age comes confidence. You've seen things, survived things, you know what you know, but that confidence can sometimes turn into something less helpful. Interrupting others, brushing off their thoughts, or assuming you already know where conversation is going. It doesn't usually come from arrogance. It comes from habit or even enthusiasm. But to the person speaking, especially someone younger, it can feel like dismissal. This habit can be subtle, correcting someone mid-sentence, redirecting the topic before they finish, laughing something off that matters deeply to them. It tells people your voice doesn't carry weight here. And over time, they may stop trying to speak at all. But every person you talk to, whether they're 9 or 90, deserves the dignity of being heard. They don't need you to agree with everything. They just need space to be seen, to be understood. If you find yourself jumping in too quickly, try this. Pause, breathe, let silence stretch a little longer than usual. Let them finish. Ask a follow-up question before sharing your view. That small change can create big shifts in your relationships. Because when people feel heard, they feel valued. And when they feel valued, they want to stay close. They trust you more, and they give you the gift of their full selves. Not just their words, but their hearts.